Goodman and Hummel podcast, and we got Robbie Hummel.
I'd known you since you were a kid.
I could blow my knee out, both knees, and still kick your ass.
We're trying to find the Robbie Hummel statue.
I wanted to kill you.
All right, welcome in another episode of the Goodman and Hummel podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He is Robbie Hummel. And Robbie, let's start right here, baby. Let's start right here. 66-0, Rob. 66-0. What is going on with your Purdue Boilermakers? This is an embarrassment for you, your community, your school, your family, everybody associated with Purdue. Everybody.
Well, during the game, I was playing Torrey Pines, so I really don't care. And I was playing well at Torrey Pines, so I even more so don't care. And on top of that, that game accomplished all we needed to have happen. So,
I hear you.
It was necessary. Okay. It was like, this is probably for the best because this is not going well. So congratulations to your. It's not even
going
your
to the
own
playoff,
daughter.
Baby.
Congrats to where your daughter goes to school. They're good. They are really good, but they're well coached. You know, like they're good.
They're very good.
Is that a Boston Red Sox hat?
That's a Brooklyn Dodgers hat.
Oh, Brooklyn Dodgers.
Dodgers hat. Anyway, Indiana Hoosiers football, more relevant than Indiana Hoosiers men's basketball. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about my trip to Vegas for the Players Era and what that event was like. And I was the number one skeptic a couple months ago, and I've kind of changed my tune.
But they're not making any money, Jeff. We'll get into that later. Keep going.
Yep.
Sorry.
We'll get into that later. We'll get into the event that you went to out in San Diego.
Yeah.
Like San Diego. Unbelievable how you got that assignment. Ridiculous, by the way.
Why?
Good teams. I mean, you go wherever the Boilermakers go. That's what I've learned now. Wherever they go, you go. So I hope they send them to Alaska next year.
The Great Alaskan Shootout makes its revival in 2025.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Dude, I don't control the schedule, man. I just go wherever they send me.
Yeah, okay. Whatever.
You think how do I have input? They send me the games and I go to them.
So you pack, like you go out to San Diego for this and you got the big bag of the golf clubs. They travel with you, obviously.
Yeah, I'm 6'8". I'm not doing rental clubs, of course. I have good enough status where I can just check them for free. It's really not that big of a deal.
It's not a pain in the ass at all.
No, it's not like I'm expensing this. You know, they're free. So they made the trip, and it was. I hadn't played in a month and a half, so to rebound and shoot sub 80, 77. And it was like a slow bleed of bogeys. You know, I bogeyed like 13, 14, 15, 16 after being one over on the front nine. I mean,
I need some
from 6,700 yards.
I need some proof of this other than your card. Your signed card means
my
nothing.
father is an honest man, as is my brother, and they both witnessed this.
Yeah, but you didn't say you're an honest man.
You're saying I'm not an honest man.
That's right.
Why cheat in golf? That'd be like you probably cheat in pickleball because you actually it allows you to win. But in golf, you're just cheating yourself. You're just cheating yourself if you cheat.
All right. Well, speaking of just cheating themselves, let's start with the UConn Huskies. The UConn Huskies that went 0-3 out in Maui, and Dan Hurley was out of his mind in the first couple games. Kind of par for the course to some degree. Obviously, the last year and a half or so, we haven't seen it as much because, frankly, the Huskies have just been absolutely annihilated.
Rolling, yeah.
So, he's still got that in him, but you're just not seeing quite that level of frustration that we saw from Dan Hurley in the first couple of games of Maui. I thought the third game he was a little bit more well-behaved, I guess. Yeah. And then afterwards, he says, basically, listen, I'm not doing another 3-game MTE again. Moving forward, we're only going to play home and homes or single-game events. There's zero chance I'd do that again.
But I don't think that we'll get to his behavior in a second. The MTE thing is not – some people were like saying, oh, that's, what a wimpy thing to say because you lost. But I don't think that's the case.
No.
Maui is going to have to adapt here. A lot of coaches don't want to play the 3-game MTEs. That's not, he is not alone in that. Because when else are you ever going to do that? I think the MTEs are great practice for the NCAA tournament, but playing 3 games in 3 days is not what you're going to do. You're going to play, have an off day, and play in the tournament. So, not that a lot of the MTEs don't have a day off built in, but I think we're going to see, even Maui might have to go to, all right, we're going to have 8 teams here, but 4 teams play in the one pod and 4 teams play in the other pod, and you have 2 champions, which is sad because there's history there. There's tradition. It's an unbelievable event. It's been awesome. It's been a staple of Thanksgiving and November for college basketball as far as I can remember, going back to the 90s. But I think that's probably going to happen as more and more coaches kind of voice this. And there's a lot that feel that way. The home and homes, please, get us more home and homes. That is great. But I don't see why UConn wouldn't play in a 4-team MTE. Especially if you can get good games. I don't see why they'd avoid that.
Here's why. Here's why I think. Again, I'm not 100% on this, but I think the blue blood teams can control. They could play one neutral and get a ton of money from the event operator, right? So they can make, I don't know, 500, 700,000 from that game. And then you get 2 home games, of which, the Kansases, Kentuckys, Carolinas, Dukes, Arizonas, the UConns, they can make another 750, I don't know, maybe somewhere in that vicinity, 750 grand per game from those home games. So, and we can get to the players here in a minute, but Maui, they're paying for those 3 games, the travel, the food, all that. In the past, it was one of those things where it was such an honor to play in Maui.
Not everybody got invited. It was always a great field.
Right.
And the travel home is brutal, especially if you're on the East Coast. That is, you're going, everyone always talks about scheduling. If you play in the Maui Invitational, you need to schedule somebody that's 355 in Ken Palm
after
your first game back because you're zapped.
Yeah. So I it sucks to me that the landscape is changing, but then again, you throw the players era in there, and a lot of the big boys are not going to play again in the players era right away. Maybe that'll change in a couple of years, but I think they're concerned about, again, yes, it's $1 million, but you're giving up 3 games. They're making more than that. They're losing money by in the players era, especially with now revenue sharing coming in next year. Nobody knows kind of what to expect with that.
So before we move to the players era, we need to talk about Hurley's behavior.
Yeah. I've said it, Rob.
It's honestly, for a coach of his caliber, it is embarrassing.
Yeah.
He is so much above this with the way he can coach and his pedigree and his record, and to act that way. He can say whatever he wants. The first game, it's a tie game, you get a technical foul, you cost your team the game. I don't care what the calls are. Bad calls are a part of basketball at every level you play in, high school, college, NBA. You get a tech, and is the call horrible? Absolutely. The call is horrible. And then to get, the over-the-back call the next day, I get it, but you can't. It is your job to help your players win the game, and you are not doing that by getting a technical foul on that. He has to act better. He has to act better.
And here's my take. I actually think he's gotten latitude from the refs over the last few years.
Oh, he should. I mean, the Maui game, he should have gotten ejected in maybe the first half.
You could find 20 other games. Rob, you could find 20 other games where over the last couple of years, 3 years, that you could honestly make a case that he should have been tossed. And a lot of the Big East officials are scared to toss him because they know he's got
because
juice.
They don't want to be the story.
They don't want to lose games.
And
they're also afraid.
Games. Right. No, I get that. But every ref out there is thinking, man, if I toss him, now it's a story. Now I'm the story. I'm inserting myself in the game. And they don't want that.
Right.
But when he's berating them every call, I mean, and it is every call. It's just, it's pretty insane to watch.
Imagine him with the Lakers. And he told me he thinks he could have dialed it back and some of
But
this.
you go through stretches in the NBA where like the schedule doesn't line up because you're like playing a lot and you're not playing well. Like the Lakers have already been through that where they've had like the peaks and valleys of that. Whereas at UConn for the last 2 years, it's been a peak. Like they've maybe lost a game at like Kansas but like, there's no shame in going to Allen Fieldhouse and losing. So I don't.
Have you ever, who's the craziest coach you've ever seen sideline demeanor? You in your career playing college or NBA?
Some of the Euro guys were like off the charts. My coach in Spain, while a very good coach, he always said, this is so accurate in his Spanish accented English, he'd be like, I am like a match. You strike me, I get very hot, but then I burn out quickly. And that's actually an amazing way to describe him. And he was a really good coach, especially offensively. We ran awesome stuff. But he would do stuff. They in Spain, they'd put the cameras in the huddles, but like they thought the cussing was funny. Like, whereas in America, they'd be like, oh, we can't show that. He said the F word or he said whatever. So they went in the huddle and they showed him on TV. It was me and William Buford, and I'm glad I'm not in the frame because I definitely was laughing. But he was like, we run this play, we do other thing. We run this play, we do other thing. We run this play, we do other thing. And then he slams his clipboard and he yells, do the effing rules. And they like showed it on local news. They loved it. Like they really liked it. But he would do stuff that was just like totally out of control. And I played for a guy in Russia that was Serbian coach. He was insane. But the constant yelling at the refs. And I just think if you're looking at this from a psychology standpoint, I know the refs will always be like, no, nothing is personal. I'm just calling the game. I'm doing. But like from a psychology standpoint, if you are constantly yelling at someone and telling them they suck and telling them that they are blowing calls and blowing the game and an embarrassment to officiating, if it's a 50-50 call, you cannot tell me that in their brain subconsciously, even if they're not trying to, they're going to be like, man, I've had enough of this. We're going the other way. You know what I mean? Like you can't treat the refs so bad, and like expect to get calls then. And then him saying that we deserve calls because we're the national champions, man.
No.
Who has ever thought that?
No,
like I don't know what he is talking about in that regard.
It's a different team, first of all. It's
well, yeah, of course.
If it's a player, LeBron James
deserves, no question, and superstars get calls, and
right,
that's
but like
and
you're Dan
they
Hurley,
earn that over time. And like LeBron is so talented and gifted, he puts pressure on the defense to where they have to foul him.
Right. I'll say this: a ton of refs reached out to me, and I talked to a bunch. And they're all on the same page. And it's going to be interesting to see when Big East play starts if they band together now. If Dan Hurley is still at this level, because the other part to this is going to be, is UConn, do they turn this a little bit? I mean, they got a tough schedule coming up with right away they play Baylor here at home. Then they go to Texas. Then they play Gonzaga at home over the next 3 games. So if this gets worse or doesn't flip, and he goes into Big East play, a raging lunatic, does the crew of Big East officials band together and say, you know what, we're not going to take this anymore?
Yeah, in Tim Donaghy's book, now granted, Tim Donaghy is a liar. He's like convicted felon, so take everything with a grain of salt. But I thought of this when I was watching some of the Maui games out in San Diego, where he's yelling at the refs. And there was a thing about Donaghy's book had Allen Iverson like went after a ref back when Iverson was at like his peak.
Okay.
And he like embarrassed the ref and then said a bunch of crazy stuff after the game. And I think the league fined him, but the refs, like, according to Donaghy, band together. And they said when Iverson would go to the rim, he would get like destroyed and they wouldn't give him any calls. And Donaghy claimed, I remember from reading, that he said Iverson was eventually like, all right, I get it. I'm sorry. But they just, and that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Like where the Big East refs would be able to say, dude, we're not going to get berated like this in one of the top conferences.
Rob, the bottom line in all this is he's just got to figure out a way to tone it down. And again,
absolutely,
it runs
because he is an elite coach. I like you watch the way they play, the way he runs a program, the offensive stuff they run. He is an elite college basketball coach. He's an elite basketball coach, period.
Yep.
But that's why it's like when you act that way, you're so above this. You're so above acting like this when you have the ability to coach at that level. And that's what I think has to just be disappointing across the board.
How worried are you about UConn? I know you haven't seen him a bunch.
Yeah.
But again,
I just think like
here's the problem to me. The problem to me,
the point guard situation is a concern.
Yes.
And like Aiden Mahaney, the fit there. But if you see Aiden Mahaney in person, he's not a big guy. Like, and you're going from the WCC and taking a step up to the Big East and playing all these high major games, like there's a big difference. So I don't know. I'm concerned. I am definitely concerned.
Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick-hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
All right, let's move on. We got a lot to cover. Here. Let's move on to players here and next.
What'd you think?
I thought it was good, and I honestly, a couple months ago, I was killing it. I was like, how are they going to make money? They're going to lose 5 or 6 million.
But they definitely did, right? The crowds were really bad.
The what?
The crowds were really bad. They probably did lose.
They weren't that bad. They were better than you think.
Really? They didn't look good on TV.
I mean, they were no worse than the Charleston Classic. They were no worse than a lot of the, Purdue obviously travels well out there, but
BYU did too. Every game was sold out in San Diego.
Yeah, that's different. That was a different deal, but it
was also
a
smaller venue.
It was
smaller venue in San Diego. So
it was San Diego, but Vegas, people want to come to Vegas too. I was impressed. It was really well organized. The access was great. All in MGM. So it's easy, players.
What is that
down.
seat? Like 9,000, 10,000?
Yeah, they blacked out the top section, so it didn't look quite as bad as it could have. Obviously they need to get a big boy in here at some point, but they're adding, Gonzaga, St. John's next year, Syracuse next year. They're adding some pretty good programs that have pretty good. Again, are they going to get? And this goes back to what we talked about before. Are they going to get the big boys? I don't know until they get this at a different level where it's like maybe, everybody's made $1 million for this one, which is good money for.
How does before you keep going, Jeff, how does the pay structure work? Because like they say it goes to the players, but does it?
Yeah, well, so everybody gets $1 million. The money will supposedly, according to Ian Orphis, who runs the event with Seth Berger, the money will go into the accounts on December 5th, this Thursday. And then each school does what they want with it, right? Some of them might have
the
already
event cannot
promised.
pay the players, right? The event can't pay them, but they could pay the collective or the school, and then they could disperse.
They pay the collective. I think it goes to the collective, and then the collective disperses it. And some of it, and it's all got to go to this year's players. You can't use that money for next year's players because the players did the NIL while they were there. They made they did stuff. I was there on Monday. They did stuff for Dick's Sporting Goods, for MGM, for some of their other Starbucks, some of their other sponsors. So it was a full day of NIL stuff, a golf event, which you would have loved on Monday. I did not go. And then games. The only the two drawbacks, there were two, and they were both scheduling drawbacks. Number one was 2 days off on Thursday.
Yeah, that was weird. I thought the tournament ended.
The problem was they got a late start with Turner. So Turner already had something.
Window-wise, yeah.
They already had something on Friday. So they couldn't go on Friday. Number two was Houston, Alabama, crossed over with the Kansas Duke. So I went to Kansas Duke. They were an hour apart. So you couldn't do both. I think both things will be taken care of next year. But again, like it was no different. Sitting in the stands covering this event for media perspective was no different than anything else. From a team perspective, they liked it better because everything was paid for. Where if they go to Maui, they have to pay to charter. They have to pay for their food. They have to pay for their hotel. Here, everything is paid for. In fact, Dan Altman told me, he's like, they reached out to him, on like Tuesday, and they're like, hey, on Thursday or Friday while you're around, if you want to go to a show, let us know and we'll take care of it for the players.
Jeez. Who is putting this money up? Is it the Saudi fund?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so. It's Wonder is obviously the ones, but I don't know where that money's coming
It's
from.
just amazing to me that with the Saudi fund, that they're willing to be like, live golf, take a bath. This thing, take a bath like that. That is.
And he
so
said they're going to break even this year. Is his hope. They're going to break even or lose $1 million, but a lot of that money's coming from Wonder money. And then next year, they won't need to. They're hoping they already have all their money accounted for next year's event. But again, like I thought it was a major success. And then you go to the games themselves, and it was Oregon wins the thing.
Yeah, right.
They're good. Like Oregon's healthy.
They're talented. Their roster is talented. Dana's got some real pieces out there. They can play a lot of different ways too.
Nate Biddle's healthy, and TJ Bamba looks like TJ Bamba again. There's not a ton of pressure on Jackson Shelstead. They've got a lot. In Alabama, they're still trying to figure themselves out. I think they'll be fine, although it looks like Latrell Wrightsell probably is going to be out for the season with an Achilles. I think they lost him for the year.
He's good, man. That's a big blow.
But they'll get Chris Youngblood. They'll get Chris Youngblood back here in the next probably 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So Alabama, I think, will be fine. They just turn the ball over too much, and Nate's just got to kind of figure out how the pieces fit together. Cliff is interesting with that group because, again, he gives you that rim protector and that, presence inside, but he also can't step out and shoot it. So you play differently, obviously, when you have him in compared to like a Jaron Stevenson or Aiden Sherrill.
Had Stevenson made a shot yet?
He did.
For a while,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
He was like,
yeah, he's starting to make a few. So
yeah, he can
better.
shoot. He just was going through it for sure to start the year.
Creighton's not Creighton. They're not what you.
But look at who they lost: Shireman, Trey Alexander. Like that's
what they're missing. They're missing a guy like that, and they're banged up. Kalkbrenner.
Yeah, isn't Ashworth still hurt?
He came back and he played. And he played well. He was good. Pop Isaacs though still has an issue with his hip. He was sick the last game. So Creighton, if they can get to 100%, listen, the Big East isn't overwhelming, so it wouldn't shock me if they win a ton of games in the Big East again. But they've gotten off to a little bit of a rough start. Houston is not the Houston that we're accustomed to, and it's because of one player. It's literally, Rob, I could tell you, Jamal Shedd's, departure has really changed Houston.
Yeah, his pedigree, winning player.
Yeah, I mean, Houston certainly a team that's got a lot of work to do, Rob, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it and become what we thought they were going to be, which is a national title contender. Because a lot of people had him in that discussion. Milo Suzan's a nice player, but he is not Jamal Shedd, and they just don't have enough. They don't have a go-to guy. They don't have a dude that you can just give the ball to and say, hey, make a play. They're tough. We know that. I think he might Kelvin Sampson might go small. I could see him going to try to score more points and space the court a little more, going with like Terrence Arsenault at the 4 a little bit and only playing one big.
Yep. No, I could see that too. That's certainly – and they're not alone. Like I was out in San Diego. Ole Miss went small. Purdue has gone small. Like there's a lot of teams that are saying, well, if the big lineups, we're not going to like be just crushing teams on the glass and we're not really protecting the rim with that, why not? Like Ole Miss's best lineup in San Diego, and the San Diego event was great.
Was it?
It's at UC San Diego. It's like probably I bet the gym seats 3,500. It was sold out for every game. The field next year is really good. Wisconsin, Florida, Kansas, Providence. So they've got good people coming. They had good teams this year. I like Ole Miss, but they're gonna have to play small. Their best lineup was with Jamin Brakefield at the 5.
Really? So Malik Dia, he
was
well
kind of. I think he was disappointing. That he was up for like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar preseason kind of top 20 centers. And he just. Yeah, he's kind of just been out there. Mikhail Brown-Jones, the transfer from Greensboro, gave them some good stuff. But they just went like nuclear from the 3-point line in the second half. Granted, it was kind of law of averages. They couldn't make a shot in the first. But I like their guards, man. Jalen Murray is electric. He's a good player, and the electricity is the word you'd use. Gets in the lane, can make threes. He had 28 in the BYU game. Padula can play. I think is kind of like a secondary creator. That's a good role for him, and I like Matthew Morrell as well. So I like their guards.
Are they a team that like are they a top 25-ish team? Is that
I think they're around like 25. I think they're like 7th or 8th in the SEC, top 25-ish team. I like Dre Davis, gives them length and a guy that can get to the rim. He competes. He's was good for Seton Hall last year in the NIT. I like their team. I know they're well coached because of who their head coach is. But I think that certainly the front court is going to limit their ceiling. But hey, good guard play. You'll take that. Purdue found a way, honestly. They were kind of dead in the water, down 7. Miles Colvin, though, he raises and Cam Heide. Them going small.
Finally.
Well, but it's the same thing. Like, you're not getting it from the bigs, so we'll spread the floor. We'll put skill on the floor. You'll deal with the rebounding consequences. But like Heidi's shooting a ridiculous percentage from 3. Colvin, his, I guess, evolution is incredible. He was strictly an offensive player. There were games last year, all right, he'll make some threes, but defensively he gets lost off the ball. Not a rebounding, doesn't go to the glass really. He's doing all of the intangible things. And it's like a light bulb has gone off in the last 3 weeks where he has started doing that. He won them the game. The transition baskets he gets are high level stuff, and then the offensive rebound putback to win it.
This
really,
is
really crazy.
Surprising though. Like we expected Heidi and Colvin to.
Those are the guys that we expected to take a jump, and it was surprising actually to see them start a freshman and maybe go bigger. But I think for Matt Painter, he's thinking, man, I like crushing teams on the glass. I don't like the thought of going back to the teams of the late 2000s where it's like we're surviving on the glass. But they're better this way. There's no doubt. And Trey Coffin-Wren has become an all-conference level player. He is just killing people.
If you could have rebounded better, I mean then it would have changed. But
I was a good rebounder for my size.
So do you have a different feel now on Purdue after watching this, or are you still like,
no, no, I think they're going to be good. They're certainly a top 12, 13 team in the country. They've got a really, really good point guard. Trey Coffin-Wren has made himself into an all-conference type guy. Fletcher Lawyer is a good player. And then these role dudes playing a team like, Maryland, you're going to have to play bigger. Derek Queen, Julian Reese, even Indiana, like Ballo, huge, Renew, big. They're going to have to matchup wise. Now, granted, I guess you always wonder, can we flip it? They got to guard us too if you're Purdue. That's the thought. But from a rebounding perspective, just from some of the size that will get thrown out in conference play, I do think, though, like this is a game that Purdue wins because of their history, because they've won so much over the last 2 years. Ole Miss, it's a culture win for sure. Ole Miss hadn't played anybody until San Diego. Purdue has seen Marquette. Purdue has seen Alabama. They've won a ton over the last 3 years. That's why they won that game.
All right, so the BYU has a special freshman on the roster.
Absolutely.
I was really excited to have you there so I could talk to you and get a firsthand account of how good this kid is.
Yeah.
Pronounce his name correctly for me, number one, because it's been all over the place. I think I've screwed it up.
It's easy, honestly. Yegor Demin. And you know what the crazy thing is?
Yegor Demin.
Yegor, not Igor. Yegor Demin.
Okay.
Crazy thing is his dad worked for the team in Russia that I played for.
No way.
Yeah, we were talking about it at their practice.
How's his English?
Really good. Fluent in English, fluent in Spanish, fluent in Russian. Really good kid. But just like the feel, I didn't even feel like he necessarily played amazing in San Diego, but he made some passes where you're like, dude, some of the hook passes across the floor and pick and roll as a 6'9", 18-year-old are pretty impressive to see. And I just think the fact that he didn't maybe play his best, but still affected the game in a big way. Had like 4 offensive rebounds against NC State. Wasn't as efficient in the overtime loss to Ole Miss, but like you can see the tools, the pick and roll stuff at 6'9". He's going to be a top 5 pick. You look at any mock draft, they've got him there.
Like Rob? Who's he like?
I don't. This would get crushed. I played with Alexi Shved a lot, and Alexi was a phenomenal pick and roll player. I think his desire to be in America as a Timberwolf and New York Knick was not high. Yeah. And certainly in Russia, like you could argue that maybe some of the shot selection, but like the natural ability to play pick and roll, it reminded me a lot of Alexi, which would make some sense if you're talking about like who has been the best Russian player of this generation for kids to watch. It's Alexi. Like they haven't had nearly as good of a team compared to like the Kirilenko teams that were making the Olympics. That reminded me of him. But that's not like his comp because he's 6'9", right. And he's Alexi was 6'5", so there's a big difference there.
I mean, I'm trying to think who is there? Like
I don't know who's a 6'9" point guard that plays pick and roll and just with passes. I don't know who his comp is, but he's going to make a lot of money playing pro basketball, and I am excited to kind of see just what he looks like at the end of the year compared to now.
How well does he shoot it? What form? Good.
He's shooting like 54% from 3. It looks good.
But is that real? Like sometimes that.
I think Now he's not shooting it well from the line, which is a little bit of that's weird and maybe a little concerning. But it looks like a shot that should go in. you look at his form, I think that's a real – well, it won't say 50, but can he be like a 38, 39, 40? Absolutely.
BYU compared to Ole Miss, are they in a similar – I know they're different, obviously.
They're different teams, but yeah, I think that BYU will beat people in the Big 12. They've got some real pieces. I like Richie Saunders.
Yep.
Dallin Hall's an all-conference player, honorable mention back this year. Cannon catching, super talented. And then they have two bigs that just rebound the hell out of the ball, Traore and Keita. So, they shoot a lot of threes. They're terrifying to prepare for because of the actions they run, the amount of threes they take, the number of capable shooters they can put on the floor. I like BYU. They'll be fun. It's a monster of a league, but they will beat people in the Big 12.
Is Catchings also a first-round pick this year or no?
Boy, he looks like a first-round pick. Like when you watch him in the layup lines, you're like, man, like he's 6'9". He's really athletic. He can shoot. He might be.
Yeah.
It depends, like on what potential-wise. Yes, probably, but he'd probably be better served, from a production standpoint if he stayed a second year. But that can hurt you too. If you come back for a second year and you play like crap, then now you're maybe never going.
All right, let's wrap with what we got upcoming, which is a hell of a week here. This is kind of the next couple of weeks are really good. Then it slows down the back half of December. But
finals.
We have the ACC SEC challenge here the next couple of days, and got some really good games. Wednesday is the big boy day here. I'll be at Auburn Duke. Alabama plays Carolina right before it. Baylor against UConn. We talked about that's going to be a big one for.
Dude, Marquette, Iowa State, though.
Is that the game? That might be I think Auburn, Duke, Marquette, Iowa State are the two headliner games.
I agree. That's in Ames.
Yes.
Oh, Hilton Coliseum will be awesome for that.
It'll be really good. I know.
That'll be sick.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good games that day. There are
a lot of good games this week. Ole Miss plays at Louisville. That's a big one for the Cards. Wake plays at Texas A&M. I just saw A&M. They're good. They're interesting. Wade Taylor's actually playing a little bit more under control because he's got some help with the Phelps kid who can put it on the floor a little bit and make plays. So it's not all on Wade anymore. What else? I think that's the biggest thing. I'm trying to think of. Arkansas plays Miami. Miami's been atrocious this year.
Yeah, man. Think about like how much momentum they had going into the Final Four 2 years ago.
It's been rough. Trying to think who else has been disappointments. All right, so here are my top 5 disappointments so far. UConn, obviously, have to be. Indiana, I think have to be. They were in everybody's preseason top 25, and they've struged.
And I think there were sort of some signs, though, like from watching their early games.
Sure. Yes, you're right.
I think Indiana fans think I'm being so negative, but I expect a group that's this talented to not let UNC Greensboro have 18 offensive rebounds, or just like not have stretches of 5 minutes where it's like, what is going on? They struggle to put it all together over the course of a game. They've not been able to do it. And then when the competition gets real, South Carolina's, they're not an NCAA tournament team. You go to the Bahamas and you see Louisville and Gonzaga. Man, those teams are good. You cannot have 5-minute lulls where you're just like, what the hell is going on?
The guards got exposed. And
I'm surprised that I really thought that Miles Rice, from watching the Tennessee exhibition and, South Carolina game, he played really well. I'm surprised. Caden Carlisle, to me, doesn't look comfortable. He does not look like he knows where his shot should come from. He's just kind of out there. That's kind of the way I feel watching him. But I'm surprised about Rice because I do think that he has shown that he can be a very, very good player.
Arizona, Arkansas, Miami, Creighton a little bit.
My Final Four is in deep shit.
Who do you got?
Remember, you put me on the spot. You made me pick one. I think I took UConn, Arkansas, maybe Alabama. I think in Kansas, one of those teams is really thriving.
I went Alabama, Kansas for sure. I forget who I got to look.
I watched the Boogie Flan just evisceration of
that's right.
someone.
Right. You
Who
got
they
so
play in the
excited.
exhibition?
Yes.
I watched that and thought, man, they're going to the Final Four.
Yeah. I mean, again, those
drank the
exhibitions.
Kool-Aid.
There's a reason they're called exhibitions.
That's very true.
So, all right. Well, listen. Thanks for joining us, Goodman and Hummel Pod. I know you're busy this week. You're all over the place.
Back to reality. I've got a lot of games this week, but they're good. They're good.
I mean, you might not play golf again until April.
Yeah.
Right?
I do have another game in San Diego though around Christmas. So
great. Bring your clubs. You might have.
Dude, I knew that tweet upset you though. You hate that I get to play golf one day.
Why didn't you just leave your clubs there? Just leave them in San Diego.
Where would I put them?
I don't know.
Like I have a home out there. What am I going to do? Stow them at the hotel for the next month and a half?
Steve Lav. You can put them at Lavin's house.
I should have called Lav. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I can take them out there if I'm going to play. But yeah, I'll see Michigan, Wisconsin tomorrow. Michigan's playing well.
They are.
And they're playing a fun style. And Dusty May is a good coach. Like just watch them play. And you can see in a short period of time, he's gotten those dudes on the same page quickly.
No doubt.
Wisconsin has been
the biggest surprise in the country.
John Tanjay is probably a top 3 transfer in the country.
100%.
He has been, and probably shouldn't be in there. He is a top 3 transfer in college basketball. And just I give Greg Gard a lot of credit. They're playing fast. John Blackwell's playing the point in transition. They're letting him go. And they live at the foul line. They're getting to the rim. Like they put a lot of pressure on your defense. That'll be fun to see tomorrow. I'll see Maryland, Ohio State. Ohio State trying to rebound after that Pitt game that I'm sure they feel like they let get away. Maryland's intriguing. Derek Queen is cool. Man, he's playing really, really well.
They got to finally play. I mean,
yeah, no doubt. Nova's their best, and they kind of squeaked by them. Illinois Northwestern, good game.
Yes.
So yeah,
you got a good week. You got a good week. Again, make sure you subscribe to the pod. If you got anything that you want to see us talk about, let us know. And Rob, it could be anything. I mean,
let's hear about Jeff's gambling from Vegas this last week.
It was not good. It was really not good. I mean, I finished okay. I finished strong. I started strong. The middle. And there were too many days in Vegas, Rob.
Here's the thing, dude. I'm just gonna throw gambling's another thing I put on the list of things that you suck at. It's just although I think the house determines that more so than your skill.
I actually play the right way, but
my dad has the ultimate quote about gambling in Vegas or anywhere. There's a reason that those places look the way they do.
I know
they make money.
There's no doubt about it. Listen, you're not, you're not going to win long term. Talia, a few months ago, her first foray into blackjack with her own money in Aruba, she did well. So she thought,
gambling does that. The first time, it's like, here, take this.
I had the same thing.
So that we can just suck the life out of you for the next.
It's like they
years.
know your first time, and they're gonna let you win. Dude, just to give you that false hope, so you keep coming back.
You're like, man, this is great. I come in here with $200. I leave with $600.
It wasn't great for her in Vegas. It was not great for us. So
always next time.
But yeah, exactly. Well, I've never been so excited to leave Vegas. I will tell you.
That's way too long to be there.
Right. No, you can't do 6. 6 days is insane.
It is exhausting to be there for that long. Between the cards. The cards on the street, the cost of food, the length of walking everywhere. Like nothing is close, even if it's a block. A block in Vegas is not a block.
No, because
those hotels are massive. So
it takes forever.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes forever. So, all right. We'll see you next week. Goodman and Hummel Pod. And